right, here we are back again doing our adaptations, and this time we're going to talk about how you receive certain traits from your parents. But we're going to do it in a very fun way. We're going to talk about it in a way, if superheroes got together, had children, what superpowers would that child have? Now, it's kind of a difficult thing to talk about, but it's not so hard when you give it like a demonstration. Basically, what we need for the children to understand is what is a genotype and what is a phenotype. Well, a genotype is an expression of a gene. It can either be a dominant expression or it can be a recessive expression. Now, just because something is dominant doesn't mean it's in the gene pool any more than a recessive one. It just means that it's more likely to occur if breeding with that gene continues. Let me give you a really good example of a dominant gene that is actually becoming less and less noticeable within human beings. Hodgkin's disease. Hodgkin's disease is actually a dominant gene. Thankfully, we're not all getting Hodgkin's disease, or else the human race would end. Therefore, even though it's dominant, the way in which we've been having our children, we've been getting the recessive gene more and more and more, thereby allowing that dominant gene to not express itself as much. So a phenotype is the actual expression of that gene. Blue eyes versus green eyes. Having the ability to have a hitchhiker's thumb versus not having that ability. Having double jointedness or not having double jointedness. Anything that is expressed as a trait, as a characteristic of you, is going to be your phenotype. Now, when we talk about our superheroes, your superhero genetics, if you will, we're talking about, will a certain child from two certain superheroes have a certain super ability? If they have that super ability, it is a dominant expression. If they don't, it's a recessive expression. So if they get super strength, it's because they got the dominant form of that gene. If they don't get super strength, it's because they got the recessive form of that gene. All right? It seems a little difficult, but when you actually go through this sheet, everything should be okay and be able to expel itself out. So here's what we're going to do. First thing is this. Randomly, I chose these two superheroes to be who we're going to express certain characteristics from. We've got Aquaman from the DC universe, and we've got Jean Grey from the Marvel universe. Doesn't matter, they're from different universes. They met, they fell in love, they decided to have a child. All right? So they have certain genes that can be expressed. And they each have certain genotypes or alleles that can become genotypes. The alleles is the expression of a gene in this sense of either being a large S for super strength, which would be dominant, or a small s for super strength, which would be recessive. So if the child receives either a large allele and a large allele, or a large allele and a small allele, one from each parent, if they have the large allele, they're going to have a dominant gene. If they receive a small allele from both parents, so small s, they will not have that expressed characteristic. So here's what you're going to do first. First, you're going to take this card right here, and in your groups of 4, you're going to transfer the information on this card onto this sheet of paper here. That's just so everybody can see. If 3 people are looking over here, 2 people are looking here, and 2 people are looking here, they all can have a chance to see. So you're just transferring this information. Aquaman, Jean Grey, the expressed genes, and how those expressed genes come out as a phenotype. Super strength, concussive blast, intelligence, whatever it might be. Okay? Now, the next page is this. On this page right here, you're going to have to go ahead and take these poker chips. One for Aquaman, and one for Jean Grey. And you're going to have to express these genes by randomly flipping them. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to flip all these, I'm going to write them down, and I'm going to tell you which characteristics this child received. So give me a minute while I do this. Okay, so there it is. Randomly selected genes. The child does not have super strength. The child has telekinesis or telepathy. Can be read other people's minds. The child will have a speed. It will not have healing factor. It will be able to breathe underwater. It won't be able to astral travel. It will have telekinesis. It will have concussive blasts. And it will have superintelligence. So you have figured out your child's different traits here. Now the next page is showing you that wonderful Punnett Square. And it's giving you, a Punnett Square is just a way of organizing the information to see the likelihood that a certain gene will be expressed. So in this case, when you look at the U gene, which is the breathe underwater, Aquaman had 2 big U's, Jean Grey had 2 small U's. No matter what, that child is going to be able to breathe underwater. 100% chance to be able to breathe underwater. But then when you look at over here at the P group, which is the speed, there's only a 50% chance that that trait will be expressed. And if I remember correctly, that trait was expressed on this child. So I had a 50% chance of having that. So you can see how the Punnett Square helps you organize it, so you can see the likelihood of a gene being expressed. Now this next page here is going to let you know the infant genotype, that expression, and a way you could draw that expression. So let's go back to that one page we just did. And we had 2 small s's. That trait is super strength. We're not going to make a drawing because our infant does not have super strength. All right. Next is our telepathy. That's a big T, small t, telepathy. And I don't know, a way you can draw that is maybe make a little head with some hair on it, little eyes and nose, and put a little head next to it. And he's taking her thoughts away. He's reading her thoughts. Okay? So you can do something like that. All right? Draw it up so you can see what it looks like. And you can keep doing that for all the different genes. All right? Now, in the back of the page, there's a chance for you to go ahead and draw out your superhero. Now, you're in groups of 4. There's only one sheet of paper. So one kid can use this, but this is where your journals come in handy. Also, there's nothing saying whether or not it's a boy or a girl. That's up for your students to decide. They can decide if it's a boy or a girl. So you can decide whether or not this child from Aquaman or Jean Grey can be a super boy or a super girl. Doesn't matter. Another cool thing you can do is you can actually draw a comic book. Normally comic books have this on it. There's a panel here, a panel here, a panel here, a panel here. You can draw the action of your super child doing certain things, okay? In your journal, you can go even deeper. You can give a backstory about this super child. You can write about where he or she came from. What did she do before she discovered her superpowers? What did she do after she discovered her superpowers? All that good stuff. So once you figure out the super child, then a really nice literacy component comes in, where the students can write about their child either in a comic book form, a story form, a poem, whatever they want. And they also bring art into it by actually being able to draw that superhero. All right? So this is a way in which we become adaptive. And using an X person is really, really good because X-Men, of course, are mutations. That's the whole idea behind it. They're mutations that can do certain things that other people can't do. Now, Aquaman may not be a mutation. DC characters tend to be different that way. They're actually, that's who they are. Okay? And there's more than one sort of Aquaman. Except in this case, Aquaman wants to help humanity. Or he's one of his group of people who wants to help humanity. X people, they can't help it. Jean Grey, she's born the way she was. She's somehow got these superpowers, and she has to think about how to control them. So that's another good thing you can talk about here is whether or not it's something that's a mutation or something that's passed on to different people. Okay? In this case, their child is a little bit of both. They're part mutation and they're part of this group of people who have these certain types of genes or these certain types of genetics. All right? That's good for now. We'll talk more later. Thanks a lot.